it's chilly.
It is freezing
It
cold.
is so cold, which is why I'm in my hoodie my mum got me for Christmas.
That's why you're sporting your hoodie.
It's so cozy and comfy. I am an hoodie guy. I mean, look how big it is.
To be fair,
I don't know
it
what
is
size
like a
this is.
dress.
It is. It's just like a big warm hug. In the morning, I look forward to getting up
Yeah.
for my hoodie.
Is that the only reason?
Yes.
What gets you out of bed in the morning?
My hoodie. Yeah.
How are you, Chloe?
Oh, you beat me
Yeah,
there.
no, I'm going to fight you.
Wow.
How are you?
I'm good. My I spoke about doing my 75 something.
Well, it was. I believe it was called your 53 medium.
Well, I don't think I said that's what it was last week.
You said to me it was a 53
Well,
medium.
that's
so
what I'm going to tell the people.
okay.
It's
Sorry
a
for
53
jumping
medium.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry for jumping you.
You stole it from me.
Sorry.
Yeah, so my 75 something has become 53 medium because we go to Disney in 53 days from
Yes,
the 1st
we
of
do.
January. But I was thinking, actually, when I'm out there, I'm still going to be able to do pretty much everything,
Mm-hmm.
except it's the reading for 30 minutes a day. That's where I'm going to struggle.
Yeah, but you can do that before bed.
Oh, I'm too tired.
Well,
Mickey shorts are on.
that's a you problem. Like, you got to
Exactly.
power through. You got to find ways in the middle. Why not just bring your book with you and knowing that you're going to be able to have some downtime in the day, maybe like 15 minutes. You normally get up before other people.
To
Give
be
yourself
fair,
15 minutes. Like, it doesn't always have to come at the end of the day. That's my
this is
logic.
true. This is very true. So maybe
You're
it will
welcome.
continue throughout, but
It will.
I said 53 to go up to Disney. So, because I'm going to walk every day for at least 20 minutes, aren't I?
Honestly, I am so glad that we can now turn around and say we are going to Disney this year.
Yeah.
Honestly, that difference in my psyche, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
It's good. It is good.
Makes
So
me feel good about
I'm
myself.
good. Everything with the New Year's going well so
Mhm.
far.
Day
my
3,
my
habits
routine.
are good.
Yeah, they're still great.
Yeah, of course.
I've drunk so much water.
Mm-hmm.
I've done exercise. My legs are in so much pain.
Still.
Yes, still.
Good thing we have another workout tonight.
Yes. Yay. But no, it's all going very well.
Good.
How are you?
I'm okay. I've had a bit of
Oh.
an up and down day where I've riddled myself with self-doubt and lots of things like that. But I have had a lot of enjoyment out of researching this episode
Okay.
because you know me, I love a
You love
history of
facts.
I love a fact-filled episode, and
Yeah.
I ended up filling like 6 pages worth of notes
Wow.
in order to take you through the history of Imagineering Part 3.
Oh my goodness. I
Which
mean, the thing
seems
is
crazy.
as well, it's good because it makes up for the fact that there is no fact at the start of this episode.
No,
We didn't ask a question last week
why is that, Chloe?
because I'm doing something fun with the questions.
Yeah, you are.
People at
New
home,
year, new me.
you will now be able to input your answers into a site.
How elusive.
Yeah, so there will be a link on our Instagram story. I'm thinking on a Tuesday when the episode comes out,
Sure.
maybe then like a Thursday,
Sure.
and then maybe a Sunday. And we'll see what happens after that. But make sure you put your answer and your name or your Instagram handle.
I think it's a good
that's
way.
it.
I think it's a good way of keeping track because we always like the quizzing aspect, and we've got loads of ideas moving forward for what we're going to do, sort of on the Instagram and across the podcast. So
Yeah.
I think this is just one of those little elements. Now,
Exactly.
before we do get into today's episode, I do want to emphasise that this is a part 3, so therefore, really just make sure that you've listened to the other 2 parts because otherwise, I'm going to be jumping in the timeline
Wow.
a little bit.
The way you set that up, I was like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, brace yourself,
Oof.
people. Buckle up.
Have you done your homework?
Is all I'm going to say.
What Mr. Cotton said.
No, well, yeah, thank you very much. I was trying not to think about the fact that I have to go back to school, but still, for this particular episode, I am going pretty much from the opening of EPCOT all the way up to Hollywood Studios. So again,
Wow,
it's another
that's a lot of information.
It's another sort of chunk of time, but it is important that you've maybe had some background from part 2, which I believe was episode 89. So if you're
Okay.
interested in the history of Imagineering, great, go back, have a listen to those episodes. If not,
If you're just here for the ride,
jump in. If you
there's
just
still going to be things to partake in.
if you
and
just
laugh at.
love EPCOT, if you love Tokyo Disney, if you love Hollywood Studios, there's probably something for you.
If you love us.
There's
There's-
probably something for you.
But I've got my peppermint tea. Again, very healthy.
Well, there is a reason why I've chosen these 2 mugs because it's EPCOT and Hollywood Studios. So I like what I
did you do
there.
that on purpose?
Of course I did.
You say that as if like you pick what mug it is every
I'm
single
all
time.
about the aesthetic.
To be fair, I have noticed you've been giving me my San Francisco mug a lot recently.
Yeah, because I'm not allowed to touch
No,
it at all.
as we know.
Pretty much. So let's kind of jump in. We are now at 1982. Great year.
Brilliant.
Why was it such a good year?
EPCOT.
EPCOT opened. Okay. Now, I did say at the end of our part 2 episode that one of the things that the Imagineers did is they kind of gathered in the parking lot and basically made themselves into a message, because lots of people in the press were doubting the fact that this project could be executed on time. So what they actually did when it came to 1982 and the opening of EPCOT is they went out into the parking lot and they spelt out "We did it" as a kind of like little kind of
That's
callback
nice.
to that previous thing. Now, in the lead
They
up,
spelt it out how?
we
No,
did
is
it.
it like
What's
with what?
difficult?
With their bodies?
With their bodies.
Okay.
Not just...
All right, I didn't know.
By the way, this isn't like 6 Imagineers just kind of like
That's what I'm...
bending over each other. This is like everyone that's
Yeah.
been involved in the project,
Okay.
both construction, design.
But they could have made it with
etc.
cones or chalk or something.
No, I said they made it with them.
They made it.
Well,
So, sorry, I had to
I'll tell you
clarify.
what we'll do. We'll find a picture, and that might help your brain with
Yeah,
all of those
okay.
things. Now, one of the difficulties faced with EPCOT was the fact that there were several issues that they kind of didn't foresee. Now, one of them, which I spoke about in part 2, was the fact that this project was kind of seen as abandoning Walt's vision, because the original plan for EPCOT was going to be a futuristic city, but it was deemed unfeasible after his death. So therefore, when they were creating the park and deciding what it was actually going to be, it kind of felt like there was a bit of a kind of a disassociation or a kind of disconnect between the identity of what it was actually going to be. And one of the difficulties that they faced is that they thought about 2 aspects. They had this idea of future world, which was purely going to be driven by technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also had World Showcase, which, as we know, is kind of a bringing together of all cultures from around the globe. Now, one of the difficulties, again, there is the fact that lots of the decisions made at these sort of early stages were really being driven by financial decisions, because EPCOT went massively over budget. Like, they didn't know how they were going to essentially fund
I
it.
go massively over budget in EPCOT, so I understand.
Yeah, but now they have people like you to make up for that.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's the main thing. So there was a real reliance on sponsorship in the early days, which is why we saw so many rides or initial rides and kind of areas
Michael
and worlds.
Jackson.
Michael Jackson? What are you on about?
Captain EO.
Oh yeah, that was something that was cast
Yeah.
out of my mind very
And
quickly.
Ellen's Energy Adventure?
Was
No.
she sponsoring it personally,
I don't
or was
think
she just a
so.
character that was?
And I also don't think Michael Jackson was sponsoring it personally, but that's how I see it.
What was it called again?
Captain EO.
Captain Neo.
EO.
Captain.
EO.
Hee-hee.
EO.
So, yeah, there was a reliance on a lot of sponsorships. So some of those main ones being General Motors, who sponsored World of Motion and Test Track. And then you had Exxon, which did Universe of Energy. And then AT&T also sponsored Spaceship Earth for a while, because it was all about communication.
Yeah.
So there was kind of an alliance between those. But again, I've always found it quite weird when kind of big companies end up sponsoring specific things, either in theme parks, museums. I've always found that odd as well.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't really understand why it needs to go corporate. But then again, you know, if the mouse needs money, the mouse needs some
Yeah,
money.
if he needs money, he needs money. And when doesn't he need money, really?
That's all I'm going to say. But another thing that I think, and I wonder whether EPCOT faces this challenge now, and this is what I want to kind of bring into you, is EPCOT is all about the kind of new. It's all about the tomorrow. So therefore, one of the key aspects that they had to address when the park was opening was, how do we keep up-to-date technology in the parks? Do you feel like there's anything in the parks that needs updating? Has it kind of stayed true to that vision of kind of updating and keeping up to date with all this kind of relevant technology? What do you think?
Well, one thing I really miss actually in EPCOT, which I understand why they did it, but also I actually think it was better how they did it before, was the secret agent thing around EPCOT, which I think is now, is it the Chipmunks now?
It's another one of their licenses.
The last one it was when I did the Kim Possible one, and I did the Phineas and Ferb one, so it was Perry the Platypus. Both of those were fantastic, where they give you a phone and then you have to go around to different like countries and do missions. I loved that, but now it's like on your own phone and the app doesn't really work very well. So that is technology that I don't like now. bring back the old one, which I guess isn't. I mean, that's different, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Someone in old tech back.
One of the main ones that I was thinking about was the Ideas of Tomorrow Today, i.e. the area at the end of Spaceship Earth.
Yeah.
Like, that whole thing needs a massive, massive update. And I don't know how they necessarily go about that.
No.
But again, that feels like it's stuck in a kind of time period that needs updating desperately.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I do think the inclusion of Journey of Water is a great inclusion, because obviously if we're thinking about interactive technology and kind of immersion, that's a real key one, especially when they're bringing in the sort of intellectual property of something that's quite relevant and something quite new. But again, I don't know.
I was thinking with Test
I
Track,
think there's certain things that I want to see more of.
You know, at the end you can like race little cars and stuff where they sell the cars. Doing a bit more there would be quite good.
Yeah, I mean,
educational.
Even a lot of the play areas.
I mean, the space one's good. Mission Space.
Yeah,
Mission
no,
Mars even.
That one
Mission Space,
I
Mission
love.
Mars.
I was going to say sort of Journey into Imagination with Figment. The area after that seems quite dated.
Yeah.
Like, there's lots and lots of new technology that they could definitely be utilising and trying out. But is that an absolute priority? Yeah, I would say, is their priority going to be on existing attractions and updating them, or is it going to be thinking about the new attractions and new things that I suppose are coming to Epcot? Now, one of the things that I've tried to do in a lot of these episodes is make sure that I'm spotlighting key Imagineers. And one of the key Imagineers for Epcot is a wonderful guy called Herb Ryman. Have you heard of Herb Ryman before?
I don't think I have.
He was lightly featured in the Imagineering story when that series previewed in 2019 on Disney Plus. But he's a really fascinating guy. And when
his name again?
Herb Ryman.
Herb.
Delicious herbs and spices.
That's maybe why I haven't. Maybe I have heard of him.
Yeah. I mean, have a little guess at what his job was before he started working for Disney.
Oh, what's his last name? Is it to do with his
Herb
name?
Ryman. No, it's nothing to do with his name. But what do a lot of these Imagineers end up doing before they start working for WED Enterprises?
They worked in the park.
Good guess. Not right for this candidate.
They did something very different to what they do now.
Be specific. What do a lot of them end up doing before?
Art.
Exactly. So he was an illustrator.
Okay.
So he was actually a storyboard illustrator.
Being quizzed.
No, you are. He was a storyboard illustrator at MGM Studios and actually contributed to major films like David Copperfield and The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard
of Oz. Lo and behold, he was working in the movie industry. He was working as a storyboard illustrator. Walt Disney caught eye of him in sort of 1938.
He went, I'll have a bit of that.
Like,
you're coming with me.
You're coming with me. And he ended up working on loads of animated films such as Fantasia and Dumbo. But one of my favourite facts about Herb Ryman is he was the person who designed Disneyland, the first original sort of concept art for it, in 1953, and he was working directly with Walt Disney in order to do that.
Wow.
He did it over a weekend. Yeah, that's my favourite little tidbit about Herb Ryman, is that he designed... You look sceptical.
No, I believe he did that, but I could easily map out a theme park for you right now. I can make up a theme park and map it out for you.
Perfectly illustrated.
Was it perfectly illustrated?
Yes.
I'm not an illustrator, Stephen.
I can tell.
But I can still map out a theme park for you.
No, but it was all of the original concept. Like, honestly, look up Herb Ryman's initial concept drawings, and they are incredible. But he made significant contributions to Disneyland's design, so he was the one that was orchestrating Main Street USA, Sleeping Beauty Castle, New Orleans Square, all of these places that we've come to know and love. He did actually retire in 1971 and worked as a consultant on Epcot, so that's where they kind of brought him back. And Marty Schuyler, who I showcased last episode in part 2, described Ryman as like our little Tinkerbell at WED Enterprises, noting that he had a childlike curiosity and ability to sprinkle pixie dust on everyone, so he had this like infectious personality.
That's nice.
So yeah, but in early 1977, he created sketches showing different configurations for the park, and he was the one that came up with the original concept for this idea of a world showcase.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this artwork, which that is kind of what Disneyland looks like.
Yeah.
Kind of not, but it's very much that thing where Walt's gone, you draw, yeah, I'll take it.
You draw it, I'll take it.
You draw it, I'll take it. I've got an idea, someone make it happen, done.
Yeah.
I want to build a theme park. Here's some.
Do you ever sometimes
concept.
get the feeling that Walt Disney was kind of like all talk, and then was like, you do this. Controversial.
Yeah, that is controversial. I think he was a good businessman. He was a good businessman personally as well.
And creative.
And creative, absolutely.
Creative lead.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I have great ideas that I can't execute sometimes, so I just get someone else to do it for me. But I had the idea.
Yeah.
Like this podcast.
And that's why I'm executing it now. Thank you very much, Chloe. No, but he was also a really kind of early lover of travel. So a lot of his travel to sort of China and like Asia, he traveled to Africa a few times as well, and that kind of inspired a lot of these areas that came to be World Showcase, including Equatorial Africa, which he designed as to be part of the pavilion, but that was later scrapped and is not included in the original countries.
Okay. He sounds like a great guy.
So many of these people are fascinating, and I still want to do that whole sitting down with an Imagineer, but I don't know. I'd want to be picky. I'd want to like give me someone with a backstory.
Yeah, but it's probably that someone's a current Imagineer.
Yeah,
I know.
And I think if you go back and are like, oh my god, can I have an interview with an Imagineer that kind of worked with Walt Disney or something like that? They're either dead or like very close to dying.
No, not all of them.
They're quite old. If you think about most of the originals that he kind of recruited, they were all recruited in like the 1930s.
Yeah.
Them people be old.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. And then let's fast forward to 1983, which is where we got our first international park, which was Tokyo Disneyland. And that opened overlooking the Tokyo Bay. Now, Disney had only obviously created 2 parks prior to this. But one of the crazy things with this particular sort of project is that it opened literally 6 months after EPCOT.
Oh yes,
so they they suddenly went from like, oh my god, we've only done like a Disneyland and a Magic Kingdom, and then lo and behold, it's like bam, let's do 2 parks in 6 months, and it was crazy. But actually, the idea of a Japanese Disneyland was actually a concept in the 1950s when there was a Japanese businessman called Kenizo Matsuo. Approached Walt Disney with the idea to build a Disney park in Nara. But again, this kind of got, Disney kind of went with the idea for a little bit and then decided to go against it. So it led to the creation of a place called Nara's Dreamland in 1961, which is a near replica of Disneyland without actually any of Disney's intellectual property, which again I find a little bit surreal and weird.
I want to go
in that. But then we got the inclusion of the Oriental Land Company, who were the kind of main pioneers moving forward with that, and they got involved in sort of 1974. They had several meetings, but yeah, the idea was that essentially the Japanese wanted an American park.
Yes.
They didn't want a sort of like a little bit like with Shanghai Disney, where they say authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese, or whatever the saying is. I can't remember off the top of my head. So it consists of World Bazaar, Adventureland, Western Land, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Critter Country, and Toontown. So it's kind of a mashup of all of them, but obviously World Bazaar being the only entrance that is covered, or like Main Street that is covered.
So Western Land is the Wild West?
I believe so.
It's not Western as in like the west of the world?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to make
I don't know. Haven't been there, so I'll have to check. But also, the reason why they put World Bazaar in instead of sort of like a Main Street was because of the kind of incremental weather, or not incremental, inclemental weather that they tend to have there. One of the challenges that they did face, though, is that if you think about most of the parks, they're built on kind of various land that is not always flat, which makes it really, really easy to create like site blocks and things like that. They were dealing with purely flat terrain in Japan.
Yes.
So again, that brought kind of more challenges, but also there was limited Disney involvement, as Disney was already facing financial constraints with EPCOT. So therefore, they ended up having a much less experienced team going out and doing this particular project, which meant that a lot of kind of up-and-coming Imagineers ended up getting kind of really key roles that, in some cases they felt really out of their depths for, but ended up rising to the occasion. And one of those is Bob Weiss.
Ah, yes, I know him.
You know Bob Weiss. And I'll do a little spotlight on Bob Weiss as well. So Bob Weiss was one of the newly hired Imagineers who was brought to work on Tokyo Disneyland. As a recent addition to the team, he was tasked with establishing signage throughout the entire park, despite having limited experience in that field.
Yeah, but signage can't be hard.
Where'd you go? This way or that way?
Yeah, think about what the main things people are going to ask for. Put it on a sign. Done. I'm not saying I could have done it. I'm not saying that Bob didn't have a challenge on his hands.
Yeah. But you could say his future at the company, it's a sign.
Very funny.
Thank you.
Very funny.
But also, going back to sort of how a lot of these Imagineers ended up starting, what's the other one that you said? They are either an artist or they work...
They work in the parks.
Yeah. And that's what he actually did. So he began his career selling popcorn and ice cream at Disneyland. And then, he ended up joining WED in 1980, shortly after graduating from college.
Good for him.
And over the course of his career, like, he was involved in so many of the kind of key projects, and he kind of got in there at the best time. So his first project was Tokyo Disneyland, where he was working on, obviously, the first international park. Then he worked at Disney's MGM Studios, which later became Hollywood Studios. He worked on Tokyo Disney Sea because, he had such an affiliation with Tokyo that he wanted to go back. He was really a pioneer for the expansion of Disney's California Adventure and all of the kind of new intellectual property that went in there alongside Shanghai Disney Resort. So he ended up, being so key to all of this. And he actually served as president of Imagineering from January 2016 all the way up until his retirement.
Wow.
So talk about like, this is kind of what I love about America in a way, but also with the Disney company. It's the amount of time that they see potential in people.
Yes. And
they go, hey, you can literally go from like selling popcorn to being the president of all of these kind of new concepts and things like that, which I don't know, I just find that absolutely incredible. But a lot of what he does, starting off with signage, was all the architectural design and those sort of layers of detail that I know I've spoken about before. He now actually works as a consultant for an architecture firm, and I don't know whether they do any projects with Disney, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was still involved in
inspo from Disney
in some way. But yeah, he believes that experiences are all about participation and engaging with and the audience being able to influence stories, and I think that's a lot of what we can see in his work as well.
Nice.
Cool. Skip forward to 1986, and this is where we finally get a rebranding. WED Enterprises is WED no more.
No more WED. No more WED.
And now it is Walt Disney Imagineering.
WDI. WDI. Would I what? Go to Disney.
Would I love to? Of course I will.
Of course I'll go to Disney.
Of course I'll go to Disney with you. Who wouldn't?
Would I?
No, I honestly just sorry, I keep having like little sidetracks of just thinking about a trip and just being like, I think it's because it's so horribly cold here that I'm just like, get me in that Floridian sun and I will be a happy man.
Yeah.
That's all I can see.
With good Disney food and drinks.
Yes.
Soon.
Anyway, moving on to sort of 1987 in January. This is where in Central Plaza at Disneyland Park, we get the creative forces of Disney and George Lucas merging for the first time, where they produce Star Tours, which is an overwhelming success. I think, is it Star Tours? I'm pretty sure it was Star Tours that ended up being like an 8 or 10 hour line, and they ended up opening. Didn't they end up opening the park much later or much earlier in order for people to kind of go on that? And I find that crazy. Would you ever do that?
Star Tours?
No, not Star Tours. I know you hate Star Tours.
No, this is the thing. I actually really enjoy it, but it makes me feel so sick.
What is it about it?
I don't know, because most of the time I'm okay on motion moving things. Like a Forbidden Journey is starting to get me a little bit.
You are getting old.
A little bit queasy, but yeah, no, I can't do space tours of
space tours.
Star Tours of space without feeling sick. It's going to hyperspace. It just
Is it just that jump to hyperspace?
No, but
or hyperspeed or whatever it's called.
But then I'm feeling queasy from there onwards.
Yeah.
It's with the 3D, so I can't do it.
That sucks.
Sorry, but what were you going to ask?
Because I quite enjoy that. Would you, or do you think you would ever be at a point where there's a ride coming out or even a land coming out that you would get up at ridiculous o'clock in the morning to go and sort of see or do?
No, I don't do crowds.
True.
I don't.
I was going to say, would you not be tempted for the Disneyland Paris like Frozen expansion?
No.
Would you love to be one of the first people there?
I would. But not enough to
Disneyland
put myself
Paris, if you're listening to this.
I can't put myself through that.
No, I get it.
I'd have a breakdown before I even stepped foot a mile towards Disney because it'd be too busy.
Yeah.
I think it'd be too busy.
That's fair enough.
People would be shouting and pushing. Kids would be screaming. Things would go flying in the air. I don't want to do it.
Nobody wants that.
No.
No.
Especially not me, so no.
That sucks. So let's sort of jump forward to 1989. Why is 1989 so significant, apart from the wonderful birth of Taylor Swift?
MGM Studios?
MGM Studios, indeedy.
I mean, as much as I love calling it MGM, if you still call it MGM, it's time to move on, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a long time now.
Move on.
Move on. It's Hollywood Studios.
It is.
So,
And it is the magic of Hollywood in a park. Did you know that this park was originally going to just be a pavilion at EPCOT?
I didn't know.
Yeah. So apparently,
Where?
yeah. Well, I don't know where
Doesn't
it was
really
supposed.
fit in
I
with-
don't know where it was supposed to be, but it says originally conceived as an EPCOT pavilion that would take guests on a journey into the magic of the movies. The project grew into an entire park as the concept developed and other ideas were being introduced.
I don't think that works in Epcot.
Where would it go? Where would you put it?
I think I would put it, you know where the Odyssey is?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there, like between
Sure.
Mexico and space.
But I also think when you think about Epcot as its identity, like lots of cultures, future, technology, Hollywood, it doesn't work
It doesn't
at all.
work.
It'd be really dysfunctional, and I don't know why they would even think about that.
No.
But it was originally named, as Chloe's already mentioned, Disney MGM Studios, was a theme park that celebrated the golden age of Hollywood and the magic of movie making. It was developed as both a theme park inspired by show business, and it was supposed to be an operating production studio, which it was for quite a period of time as well, with an active film and television production service, an animation facility, and a fully functioning backlot.
Ooh.
God damn it, I missed that backlot.
Oh, I missed the backlot tour.
Saying that, if we think about what Hollywood Studios is supposed to be, like the magic of the movies
Yeah.
and sort of TV and this kind of, I don't know, immersion in the behind the scenes, do we think it's lost that identity?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, I think it's changed from you going behind the scenes of a movie to being in the movie.
That is such a nice way of wording it. Elaborate,
Oh,
please.
Thank
No,
you.
I love that. That was really nice.
Like before you had the backlot tour, you had that that other section that you could watch like
The other one.
no, you could watch like there was like a Narnia thing at one point, and then there was like
Mhm.
a Pirates of the Caribbean thing there as
Mhm.
well. And then you had the area like the Bugs Life area, and near there you had another backstage. I think it was the start of the backlot tour. You got to see the people on the boats. Maybe.
No, I think so.
Then you had the stunt show.
Do you know what
as
it's just made
well.
me think of as well? Do you know what I think would work so beautifully in a place like Hollywood Studios? You know, in Disney's California Adventure, where they have that like animators
Yeah.
kind of indoor place where it's kind of got all the artwork and it's where you meet Elsa and Anna and everything like that. I think it could really use kind of like a bit more
Yeah.
of a, almost like a Rafiki's Planet Watch, but for Hollywood.
And I'll tell you where it can go.
Go on.
Launch Bay. 'Cause that's what used
Yeah.
to be there.
That would be so good.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what they should do there. But yeah, I think there was a lot more. I used to love the stunt show. Love the stunt show. And there was a lot more of great the Chinese movie theatre ride, the Great Movie Ride.
Yeah. No, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit.
But like, there's so much that it was stepping behind the scenes, but now you're in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I still think if we're thinking about the only places that actually still show that behind the scenes, I would argue Indiana Jones sounds
Okay, but
spectacular.
anything else?
But apart from that, there really isn't much. And I do like wording it as like you're now in the movies. I love. Part of me still wants that sort of deconstruction. I
Yeah.
still want to. I really miss the backlot.
Mm-hmm.
I really miss like those sort of the integration of like sets and play areas, like the Honey I
Yeah.
Shrunk the Kids area
Yes.
was incredible because it allowed you to like you were in the movie, but you were still like
It's
I don't
like
know.
a movie.
It's like
It's
a
a movie, you know.
that you get to play in
Like,
because
it's
you're
a-
on a giant
It's
ant.
a real movie.
Mm.
Harry Styles.
No, I do think that's an interesting one because I think that's essentially what has happened with like Batu. Batu is what I would call, and I think we're going to see it as well with the sort of new Monsters Inc. land as well. It is you stepping inside that movie
Yes.
more than anything. Is what I found more so with
Yeah, same
Radiator
with
Springs
Toy
with
Story.
cars.
Toy Story Land as well.
I don't get it as much with Toy Story Land
I
because
don't.
yes, everything is sort of like as if you were the size of a toy, but it's like an outdoor area where loads of toys have been.
It doesn't
whereas
make
Batuu
any
feels
sense
like a planet.
to me because the size of the toys don't add up.
What do you mean?
Like the size of...
Are we small toys?
No, yeah, as in like how small am I? Because Jesse's and Woody aren't that big in the film. Yeah, I'm tiny.
Yeah, but maybe
So how
we're
small
like...
am I?
I don't know. Maybe we're like those... we're not quite like... I think we're smaller than Sylvanian families. Maybe we're
But
those
we're gonna
like
have
little
these-
plastic figurines.
But we're smaller
used
than the
to
Green
get.
Army men.
Yeah.
I know we're the same size. Yeah.
If anybody knows and could give us a bit of a
How
size
small
check,
we're
how
meant to
small
be.
are we supposed to be in Toy Story Land? Because that is a confusing one for me.
Oh.
But no, I think that's a great thing because I think I still want to see some elements of behind the scenes action. And I don't think we necessarily get that with Hollywood. So, but then again, that's what happens when things change over time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was predominantly led by Marty Schuyler, who showcased last time, and they aimed to create an experience that showed Tinseltown in all of its glory days. And there was another Imagineer called Eric Jacobson, who said 90% of what you see is Hollywood Boulevard is inspired by a modification or a copy of a real building in Los Angeles. That's why you get the Carthay Theatre and everything like that. And to be fair, the level of detail there is incredible, to be honest. And you've already mentioned this before. The park's layout featured a large hidden Mickey, which we mentioned in our hidden Mickey episodes. And construction actually began in 1987 and was accelerated due to
Universal Studios.
Yes.
Ba-ba-bum.
Yeah, it's amazing how that competition sort of drives things. Although I think it's interesting this time that you've got Epic Universe bringing lots of kind of, as we keep talking about, like new worlds for you to kind of step into.
In my opinion,
go on.
As a travel agent, putting my work hat on for a second.
As a traveller.
You've got Universal tickets are obviously increasing in price. And on average at the moment, for you to enter Epic for one day, it's basically costing £100.
Okay. That's what I'd expect.
Yeah, that's what I expected too. But Disney have also upped their prices 2025 and 2026. No, yeah, 2025 later on in the year and 2026, which is interesting.
Yeah, but Disney...
Mainly 2026.
Yeah, but Disney have done that every single year incrementally. I'd love to do...
Yeah, but it looks like quite a jump for next year.
Yeah, but I'd love to do an episode on Disney economics. Because the economics of Disney over time has gone crazy.
Wow. Math.
Yeah.
It's too many
numbers. If you're boring like me and would like a maths-based episode, then let me know.
I actually am intrigued. If you want to know about that, let us know. Cause,
we'll call it Disney economics.
Okay.
I'll work on the title. I'll work on the title, but either way, it was forwarded by the Universal Studios Florida project, and Disney, partially because of financial constraints, entered into a licensing agreement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, although there was some conflict between them. I didn't kind of deep dive into it a little bit. There was some people being sued and all that kind of malarkey. But there were also various film directors that were also involved in the creation of Hollywood Studios who acted as kind of consultants, one of those being George Lucas, who helped kind of create these particular lands and worlds. But there was such a limited amount of rides on opening day. There was like barely anything. Like when you actually boil it down, your sort of main attraction was the backlot tour and Great Movie Ride.
Yeah,
that was pretty much it.
That was it.
There was nothing else. But there was also other issues. Well, there were a few issues. One was the fact that they had limited attractions. Two was the fact that it was overcrowding. They did not think it was going to be a big park. I mean, how many times have Disney turned around and gone, hey, let's create this park. Oh, we'll make it like a half-day park. Yeah. And then it turns into a full-day park. And they're like, oh, we didn't actually account for this. And it's like, more for you. But then also they had intellectual property constraints because there were new owners in 2000 of the Chinese theatre. And they essentially went...
You can't have that.
Well, they sued Disney, which required them to block the view of it from the entrance. So what did they put there? A giant sorcerer's hat.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so they had to obscure it.
I mean, this is going to get very legal, so I'm sorry. If they had...
That was my gavel.
Oh, okay. What was that? If they were about, like, if they made a contract with the people that owned the Chinese movie theatre before, and then it changed ownership, why... Surely you just go... You talk about it first.
No take-backsies.
Yeah, no take-backsies, but they've gone... that's ours. Take it down. We're suing you. It's like, excuse me, you've just bought this.
Yeah, no, I know. But what can you do? I mean, if you're Disney, you just go, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Here's a big hat.
So I'm guessing that licensing then got renewed because that's why the hat
Oh,
went.
I didn't go into it because this is a history of
Well, obviously they're
Imagineers, not
allowed
a
to have it,
history of
aren't they?
legal battles of Disney.
Well, they're allowed to have it,
Which
aren't
again,
they?
if you're interested in legal battles of Disney, I'm
Oh
sure
my
Chloe
god,
would
I
love
would
to put one
love
together.
to do one of those. All the legal issues Disney have faced within reason.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to say, your excitement for that is like me with Disney
no,
economics.
like,
It's a weird one.
yeah, no, I could do that. I could do that.
Sure. But also with the opening of the Great Movie Ride, which, let's face it, is an absolute loss.
R.I.P.
Just wanted to take a moment there.
A moment of
Because
silence.
that is pretty sad from me, to be honest with you. But we also had a massive leap forward in the audio animatronics, which we've spoken about in previous episodes. Essentially, they started off as, do you remember the whole thing with the mechanical bird that he bought in New Orleans, and then that kind of brought his fascination and led you to sort of Abraham Lincoln and people like that. They do actually, I didn't know this, they do actually have names for the different types of
birds,
audio animatronics that they have. So
Yes.
the birds were A1s,
Mm-hmm.
and then the introduction of the Wicked Witch of the West is the first one that we would call an A100.
Whoa!
So they
That
basically
went from 1 to 100
they
very
add
quickly.
they add zeros for newer
Oh.
sort of iterations
So
and things like that.
Is Kylo Ren
A1000.
1000?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it briefly actually.
It's because I heard you researching the other day.
Yeah,
I heard what you were listening to.
I was. This is the thing is. I love
And
the
it
research.
made me laugh because I thought,
I like finding even more.
That connection, I went, no.
Did you also know that Disney has a patent on the phrase audio animatronic?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
That's another thing that they ended up doing in 1967.
That's smart. That's a smart thing to do.
But yeah, so obviously this all started off in the sort of 60s with the Tiki Room and Pirates of the Caribbean and these kind of basic motions. Then everything started to change sort of post 1967, where you had the Imagineers Digital Animation Control System, or DAX for short, which is a set of buttons and knobs that control and record the animatronics movements, freeing programmers from having to strap themselves directly to machines. So if you look in the sort of history of Imagineering and watch the Imagineering story, in those very early stages when you see people doing things for like Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, you see someone almost like strapped up with and sort of doing like basic movements, so that essentially the audio animatronic can just copy those rather than it sort of being pre-programmed. So they were moving past that system. So that was always the case for sort of Pirates of the Caribbean, Splash Mountain, Country Bears. They were all A1 models, and then the Wicked Witch was an A100 model, which basically meant that it had, rather than having a single control unit for the hand, it had a separate actuator for each finger, letting everything move independently. So rather than it just sort of being like, oh, joint, it was like, oh, we can actually move all of them, for example. Yeah, which is really, really cool when you think about it, because actually Disney were doing a lot of kind of coding and computer programming way before computers were kind of mass in that sense. But essentially they utilise more free-roaming audio animatronics, and we're always looking for sort of new and innovative ways to do that. So in that sort of mid-phase between the Wicked Witch of the West and sort of your Kylo Rens and all those ones that we kind of see nowadays, do you remember the sort of Beaker and, I can't remember what his name is called, the Dr. Benson Honeydew and Beaker that used to go around?
Yeah.
That was sort of like an in-between model, because it was, it essentially had a more sort of interactive design and was a little bit more fluid in motion. Then we started to see a slight development towards the projection mapping, like you see on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Frozen and little things like that. And then you move on to the A1000 models, which is basically everything to do with like the Na'vi shaman in River Journey, and then also Hondo, Tiana's Bayou, everything like that. Basically, the A1000s have about 51 different functions. So, for example, Hondo has 10 actions in the head just alone, rather than it just sort of being one sort of fluid movement.
Wow.
And that's kind of where I'm up to at the moment.
That was a lot of numbers.
So that's your audio animatronics development. That's some of your Imagineers. That's taken us all the way up to essentially the early 90s. I reckon I've got about another 2 parts out of this.
2 more parts.
Yeah, so we're going to do part 4 and we're going to do part
Wow.
5 and try and take you all
Lucky
the way up
you
to
guys.
all the way up to modern day.
Wow.
But hopefully you enjoy these episodes because they do take a fair bit of time to research and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Very
are you
interesting.
just like, yeah, they do take a long time.
They do take
I'm
a
like,
long
you
time.
you
No,
haven't researched a thing for this.
I did not, no. But thank you so much.
No
I'm
worries.
learning a lot.
You're welcome.
Not about the legal battles, though.
No, that's for
for my
another
own
day
thing.
and one for you.
Lovely. Well, you have a question, Stephen, to kick us off on this new question journey we're going on.
I do, and that's partially because this is one that I found in my research with doing things around EPCOT. So, we all know and love that Judi Dench is the English voice on Spaceship Earth. However, she replaced a very well-known Disney villain in 2007. Who was that actor, is what we want to know.
And you can input your answers on the Instagram link.
Exactly. And we look forward to seeing what people come up with.
Yeah.
Don't cheat. That's all I'm going to say.
Cheat.
In a world of Googles and Alexas and various things like that, the last thing you need to do is just cheat. Have a guess.
You're only letting yourself down if you
exactly.
cheat.
Nobody
it's
likes
no fun.
it. Nobody likes it in a pub quiz when somebody's there going to the toilet every other second just to check their phone to find out what the perimeter of the Earth is.
You haven't really won, have you?
No.
Don't cheat.
Don't do it. But I'm sure that none of you lovely people will.
No.
What is our next episode?
It's a guest episode.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yes, so that is exciting. I haven't had a guest yet this year.
No.
Our first guest of the new year. Very exciting.
First guest of 2025, and we will start with a bang.
Yes.
Anywho's.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
We can cry when it's over.